Boys and girls, I'm super proud of you that you made it all the way through until now. This exercise is actually super intense as well, especially if you do it together, but it can also be fun. Let me explain the steps involved. Step number 1 is that you explain, assuming you are the facilitator, the exercise and the worksheet example. Print the worksheets, also the blank ones, and put them on a wall. And maybe you want to hand out a few copies to your contributors. For this exercise, it's super beneficial if you have contributors who know the market, who know the problems, the solution, and the target audience as well as possible. For the explanation, you may take 5 to 10 minutes. The next step is research. It may take maximum of 20 minutes, and really set your alarm clock, 20 minutes, that's it. And divide your group into 2 or 3 teams. Let them all do a little research on the audience, and make sure you have spread the knowledge of the teams equally. Researching your audience further will help you create a realistic persona and possibly find interesting details about your customers that you might not have known before. Look at your current customer base. Who are your best customers? Who are your best repeat purchasers? Are they having any similarities among them, between them? And by finding similarities among your best customers, you can create a persona that'll help you attract more of these great customers. If you don't have customers yet, you could look into the customers of your closest competitors. Answer questions like, what challenges do they have? What kind of service or product would make their lives a lot better? What questions do they have about your product or service? How would they interact with your product or service? And what customer feedback did we get until now? And really be honest. And what customer data did we get until now? Step number 3, use the template PDF given to you, and align that with your research, and make sure you have done research on all of these segments. Set the alarm clock for 10 minutes. Make sure that you'll have an answer or some direction for all of these segments. Step number 4 is connecting the dots. Set the alarm clock for 10 minutes. And now that you've done some high-level research, it's time to narrow down your results by connecting the dots. Reading through your research to determine with your group what are the most important details that affect your communication with your ideal audience. For example, if the majority of people share the same challenges, this will be an important detail to include in your buyer persona. Here is some of the information you should determine in this step. Demographics, age, occupation, etc. Behavior, skill level, interest in your product offering, how they use your product, service, and what they read, what they watch, what they consume, etc. Challenges and interests, what kind of technology, what kind of social media platforms and channels they like. Basically all of the key points and segments from the template. Step number 5 is creating your actual buyer personas, and you can set the alarm clock for 15 to 30 minutes depending on how well your group and your participants actually know your market, your target audience, and their problems. To create a proper buyer persona, identify people in your audience with the same challenges and goals and group them into their own category. These different categories will represent different personas. And again, a persona is a fictional person with a name and all kinds of personal attributes, with a job, with a life, and we'll dive into that in a minute. For example, if you are an online fitness app, you may have clients who want to increase muscle and gain weight, and others might want to lose weight. Since they have very different goals, you should create 2 separate personas for these clients. And the best buyer personas are hyper-realistic and recognizable, and therefore give them names, give them a personal life, and make an effort to follow the worksheet example. For example, when you look at Debbie Brown, she's a record store manager. She lives in New York and she's single. Her tier is enthusiast, her archetype is the ruler. We'll get to that tactic later. And when you look at the center here, you'll learn something about her motivation and the way she operates. She's focusing on growth, she's very social, she wants to grow a strong reputation inside the industry, she wants to build an audio pro portfolio to keep track of everything. You'll also describe her bio. Let me read it out loud for you. Debbie has a day job at a record store, but on the side she does all kinds of production work for up-and-coming artists. She never hesitates to learn something new, and she often acts as tech support for her friends and clients. She is usually working on a dozen projects at a time, and she's trying to establish herself in the industry, so she hates data crashes and anything that makes her look bad. Because she works alone in her home, collaboration is everything. If you are a technology company, like for example Dropbox, this could be a great buyer persona. You'll also describe her personality. Look at the sliders on the far right corner. She is more of an extrovert than an introvert. She operates on intuition more than sensing. She operates more on feeling than on thinking. And she operates more on perceiving than on judging. And by the way, you can change the values of these sliders at any time. I also like the fact that people use pictures for their buyer personas. You can easily find them online. If you go to Unsplash or Pexels.com, you can simply look in the search engine for male or female or girl or whatever you feel you want to search, and you can find portraits. So it really helps to add a picture here for everyone to get a good snapshot of who she is and who your ideal customer profile or your ideal buyer persona is. And then below that picture, we also add some sort of quote or a concept statement. She says, if I had a way to share projects and collaborate in real time, that would make my workload so much easier to manage. Usually we use this quote to say something about her personal frustration or the way that she operates and looks at the product or a service. And if you do this, that would really help you to establish a strong buyer persona. So depending on the intended number of personas, most companies need 2 to 5 buyer personas, and the number of teams, you as a facilitator should decide if each team creates 1 or 2 buyer personas. This will define whether the time needed for this step is 15 or 30 minutes. And then lastly, we'll go to the last step, which is step 6, present and vote. So each team takes 5 minutes to present their buyer persona, come in front of the room and really present it and express their choices. Why have they come up with this buyer personas? What do they know? What kind of research have they conducted before coming up with this? And then followed by a vote for the 2 best personas. And that vote is a voting round after everyone has presented their buyer persona. And as a facilitator, you stick each buyer persona to the wall and give everybody 3 to 5 minutes to vote. In case there is no clear winners, then let the product owner or main decision maker, usually the CEO or the CMO, make the final choice. Another great gain from this exercise is the realization that these buyer personas need more research to support your decision. I hope this helps. Let's move to the next video.